Okay, bye.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Education Subcommittee of the House Ways and Means Committee. Great to have everyone here today. We're going to start our meeting off with House Bill 1376, which is the Virtual Learning Education Bill. We're going to ask Alistair, our counsel, to walk us through the bill as amended. I just want to say that, we went through several iterations of this bill. There's 4 different components of it. Alistair is going to walk us through those 4 different components. We're not going to take any questions until the very end after Alistair does a overview of the bill, and then we'll take questions and comments from folks. We have taken on a lot of amendments that were proposed to us by members of this subcommittee and also members of the advocacy community. With that said, this is where we are now. We will take maybe limited versions of amendments if it's necessary. But I want to just caution everybody that we have, been through this several times and went through it. And I think we came up with a great product right now that will be amenable for everyone, just listening to everyone's concerns. And again, let me just repeat this just for the public. The bill as it came in was not the intent of the sponsor or the speaker. And the intent of where the bill is now is where we would like to go. So let me make that very clear. The intent the bill came in, the way the bill came in was not our intent. The way it's looking now, it's what we're where we are now, and we're satisfied with where we are now. So Alistair, you want to walk us through this bill completely for the next 10 to 15 minutes?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, so I'm going to be going through the PDF version of the reprint that everyone should have been emailed. And I will go by the page number at the bottom. So the work of the bill begins on page.
So let's just say this. Let's say this. So the bill, the version that we're all looking at is today's date. It has today's date at the top, and it says 4/01/21, and at 10:38 a.m. Is that correct, Alistair?
That is correct.
Okay, cool. Everybody have it?
Delegate Rose.
You don't have it? You should check your email one more time, Delegate Rose. So I'm gonna say that again. It's April 1st, 2021 at 10:38 a.m.
Mine's from yesterday evening at 6-something p.m. That's the one I have. Is that different?
It's a different one.
There's some slight updates. I can resend, but I think you guys were both on the email that I sent.
Yeah, can you both check your emails for us?
I'm having a little trouble locating it too, so just give us a second.
It was sent at 10:58 this morning. No, that's not. It was sent at, I'm sorry, at 11:09 this morning.
In whole, it is similar to the one that was sent last
Okay.
night. There were just
So-
really minor changes. Okay.
It's 1376.
Yes, I will send again. Give me one moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have it. I've
Okay.
looked at all my stuff.
No problem. We'll send it again, Delegate Rose.
Okay, sorry.
It's all good.
Also, are you sending it to personal addresses as well as public?
Yeah, so I only send it to the non-personal addresses. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only have the one from yesterday evening. I just double checked.
Okay, give me 1 second. My computer's freezing at the moment, but.
You know what? Why don't we just end the meeting now and we can come back. Once everybody has it, takes a minute to look at it. We'll come back in a couple minutes. April Fools, we're gonna stay on this bill.
I was like, can we just stay and shut ourselves down, or do we actually have to leave and come back? You had me.
I was like,
You got us.
Mr. Vice Chair, it only takes a second to hit print.
Dude, what is wrong with you?
That was good. That was good.
That was well played.
We had to get one in there somewhere.
Okay, got it.
So we got it now.
We got it.
Awesome. Everybody want to print it off first too?
You can toss that one, Suzanne. This is the right one.
Yeah, I'm printing it down.
Okay.
Lydia.
Great. Okay. So I'll begin if that's okay with everyone.
Let's just hold off until Delegate Guyton gets back.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
You want me to just leave that on the screen? You like it that way? Okay. You think this should?
So after Alistair goes through, we're gonna go section by section and ask if there's any questions. If you don't have any questions in that section, I'm gonna move on to the next one. We're not gonna take, we want clarifying answer, we want clarifying questions from everybody. We'll take questions from the members first, and we'll see if there's any questions from the advocates. And make your questions concise, straightforward, and so we can get to this. We spent a lot of hours, 2 weeks on drafting this bill. So Alistair, everybody's here. Let's get started.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 5 of this document, there's an update. We formally.
So just so everyone knows, sorry, Alistair, man, just so everybody's clear. When Alistair says page 5, we're talking about the page number at the bottom of the pages, not the top. Those are bill page numbers. The bottom of the page is the numbers that he's referring to as we go through. So just want to make that clear for everybody so that people aren't confused. It is a lot to read these documents sometimes. So sorry, Alistair, go ahead.
Oh, no, thank you. That's good clarification. So these are the updated training measures that have to be used for teachers to have the best virtual education principles. These are the same measures we had before, but rather than having the State Department of Education develop them, they're now developed by the Professional Standards and Teacher Education Board, which is a board that exists to do things just like this. So this is an update there. And then it's provided to teachers and also educational support professionals. Moving on to page 6, we have the Flip the Classroom pilot program here. And there are, the main change from what we had previously is that rather than specifying particular requirements for teachers, we are now saying that the State Department of Education, in consultation with subject matter experts, specialists in course design, current certificated teachers, and current school administrators, will design and administer the program. And then that the State Department of Education has to report on the program using strong or moderate evidence as defined under the federal Every Student Succeeds Act to measure its efficacy in improving student outcomes. So we're setting an actual evidentiary standard that they have to use, but we're leaving it largely up to the department in consultation with those groups to design that program. Okay, moving on to page 9. This is the learning management system section. So previously we had required that each county board adopt the learning management system developed by the State Department of Education. We're amending that to say simply that if a county board does not have a learning management system on August 31st, then they must adopt the department's learning management system. Additionally, the department is now required to provide technical support, professional development, and financial support to any county that does adopt universal learning management system, but to not provide that support to a county that chooses to adopt its own learning management system. So it's no longer required, but incentivized through these supports. Moving on to pages 10 through 12 of the bill, we're now getting to a section related to virtual education courses. So we talked about these courses a little bit last time. Originally, this bill did not have any regulation of these courses. We're modifying the way that they currently exist in code. Under code currently, the County Board of Education can propose a virtual education-like course to the State Department of Education for review or ask the State Department of Education develop it, or they can ask a third party to develop it and review the third party's development. Rather than that system, we're having either the county board will develop it or they will ask the State Department of Education to develop it. The State Department of Education will still have 120 days as exists under current law to review or to develop a course. Additionally, we're amending the current law to say that on page 12 of your reprint, that any virtual education courses shall be offered through synchronous learning, and no more students may be enrolled than a teacher may reasonably be expected to meaningfully interact with during class time. A teacher may not be required to simultaneously interact with students in the teacher's own classroom and in the virtual education course. So this is banning a sort of hybrid thing. And a teacher who teaches a virtual education course shall have their other duties, including any mentoring or leadership duties under the Kerwin career ladder section of the Kerwin bill modified. Moving on to page 13, we are now in the large part of the bill dealing with virtual education. So I'm sorry, dealing with virtual schools. So we have some definitional sections here. Quality online definitional standards, educational standards, I'm sorry. This is something that the Senate added to the Kerwin bill. So we're just taking their amendment to the Kerwin bill here so that we're not passing a later form of this bill that was not agreed to by both bodies. We are defining student eligible for aid. In the previous iteration of this bill, we had some programs directed to students who are eligible for free and reduced meals. However, that's not a completely accurate measure of students who come from impoverished households. So we have supplemented that so we're capturing the most students. Additionally, we have the same definitions that we had before, students for virtual schools and temporary virtual schools on that page. So then we struck the rest of the bill because it was very messy and difficult to follow, and we've reincorporated it with most of the same things that you saw before, but one large notable exception. So on page 20 of this document, if you scroll down, section 71402, we are saying that no virtual schools may be approved for operation in the state until July 1st, 2023. Before that date, the State Department of Education is required to consult with current public school teachers and current public school administrators and academic experts to study the issues surrounding virtual education. They're required to study successes and failures during the COVID-19 pandemic, how to ensure equitable education to all students, whether there are certain groups of students that excel or are harmed under virtual education, and whether that can be mitigated, and if not, how we can direct virtual education to those who excel and limit it from those who are harmed, any accommodations that may be needed for under virtual education, criteria for selecting student staff to work under virtual education, methods to accurately assess student progress, what types of tools will be needed for students engaged in a virtual school, any behavioral health costs and issues related to virtual education, how best to actively involve parents, and how to give students needed services while they're enrolled in a virtual school. So by that date, the department must devise those criteria. They must report, on or before September 1st, 2023, the State Department of Education must report to the governor and the General Assembly on the results of their study and the criteria they've developed for virtual schools. Then if you go to section 71403, we have some requirements that these are the criteria that at a minimum the sustained virtual schools must meet. So this is largely what exists under current law. We've added a few things such as given the impetus to create virtual schools to the county would then submit a proposal to the State Board of Education that would review that proposal. Additionally, we've laid out requirements for employees of a virtual school that track the language of charter schools. And that is, on page 22 in subsection E. We've laid out some minor criteria for enrollment in a virtual school, that it should be students enrolled in the county at large. And then we have some information that is just current law on that if you're going to develop a virtual school, you must set out, you must have a place of business that's in the county, and you must evaluate how your students are performing each year, which is current law. So most of that section is current law, but those are the minimal criteria that to establish a virtual school, those are the criteria that the State Department of Education in its study should look to as a baseline before approving the ability, before coming up with criteria to establish sustained virtual schools. Section 71404 on page 23, this is the section on temporary virtual schools, and this is largely what we talked about. There is one change. Instead of having the temporary virtual schools establish their own plan at the start of an emergency to train kids, we're now requiring that they have in place at all times a temporary virtual education plan based on the COVID-19 continuity of learning plans, and that those plans have to be updated every 2 years. The plans still have to contain the things we talked about last time in the bill, but it is no longer a process where schools close down and kids are out of school for a week while the counties come up with a plan for the schools. If there's an emergency and schools close down, they can immediately transfer to this plan. So otherwise, I believe everything in here is largely what we talked about before. There are on page 25 additional requirements for check-ins with students during temporary virtual education. There are assignments of roles for various school mental health professionals, including school psychologists, pupil personnel workers, school staff workers, school social workers, and school counselors. There's also a requirement that the administrator of a temporary virtual school must develop a behavioral health plan that properly assigns behavioral and mental health staff and sets out procedures for referral to proper behavioral and mental health supports for students who are struggling. But otherwise, I think most of this language is what we considered before. If you scroll down to page 27, we have new language on what was formerly the senior virtual year program, where we removed that program and are now doing a pilot program on limited specialized courses. So
I'm sorry, Alistair, I apologize. I just lost I was looking for something. I lost my place. Tell me again where you are, sir.
I'm on page 27 in section 71405.
Okay, there it is. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No problem. So this is, there were some issues with coming up with these senior classes. So instead, this section is now designed for in cases where there is a course that not everyone in the county can enroll in, such as Latin, for instance, or differential calculus, but there's demand in other schools than just the one that can offer it. We are now setting up a grant program to provide grants to counties to offer those programs. And we have similar criteria for those grants that we formerly had for the virtual senior year. So if you
Yeah,
scroll
Alistair,
down.
can I pause you there real quick?
Yeah.
Hey, Delegate Palogovich-Carr, we're on, just so you know, we're on the latest version of the bill, which is today, April 1, 2021, at 10:38 a.m. is the bill. Sent it over to you. Yep. On page 27 of the bill.
Yes. And so so this is largely administered in the same manner that the virtual senior school year would be administered, but now these are any high school courses that fit this criteria of there's not sufficient demand in every school to offer them, but there is sufficient demand throughout the county for them to be offered in this way. And there is $500,000 dedicated in grants to these programs, and a reporting requirement that they be analyzed on page 29. Section 71406 and 71407, these are sections that were in the previous iteration of the bill. They relate to training of teachers using the developed guidelines that we talked about at the start of this bill. That's section 71406, providing professional development for those teachers, and requiring that the department expand computer and internet security infrastructure for virtual education. In section 71408, there is a section relating to the construction of this whole subtitle. Here it says that the purpose of the subtitle is not to limit the abilities of schools to offer virtual education courses. So the regulations that are in place are about permanent or sustained virtual schools, which there is now a limit for 2 years on. They cannot be created until 2023, and temporary virtual schools, which is the current case, what happens when there's an emergency and the entire school has to shift. That is not being, so those things are regulated by this subtitle. What is not regulated is the offering of a virtual education course. So as long as the virtual education courses adhere to section 71002, which we talked about earlier, they are okay to be offered. Additionally, a student who's enrolled in a public school may enroll exclusively in virtual education courses as long as those courses are offered in accordance with that section. Finally, on page 15 of the bill, there is
You mean page 30. You mean page 30.
I'm sorry, page 31. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. There is a small uncodified section relating to, as part of the reworking of the virtual education courses section, there was a fund that existed there that collected money for approved courses. So if Pearson proposed a course and the State Department of Education said, yes, we will allow you to offer that course as a course to high school students, but we're going to collect a fee. That fee went into this fund. And in section 3, those funds that exist in that fee, since we're getting rid of that, they will be transferred to the grants, to provide grants in accordance with the Flip the Classroom pilot program and the limited county course virtual education courses program. And that's the extent of the changes.
All right, nice, awesome. That was a good 17 minutes, so perfect. Thank you, Alistair. Appreciate your hard work on this. First question, Delegate Ebersol, and let us know which section you're on.
I absolutely will do that. Yes.
Page.
Most of these are clarifications and not suggestions. I just want to be sure on a couple of things. On page 10, in section 7-1002, we're talking about virtual courses being offered. There's a couple of things in there that, since some schools are already engaged in virtual course offerings, that might change their outlook. For example, I know that Howard County offers a course where a teacher does actually teach face-to-face, but other kids tune in. And it says they can't require it. So I'm hoping that means that they could do it if the teacher was amenable to doing it in that fashion. The other thing they'd have to do is put the kids in another school. So that's a question about that. And are we also then in the virtual courses, we're putting down some stuff. Do you think we're saying going forward, these are the requirements, or can they continue to do what they're doing virtually at this time? And then,
well, wait, let's take one at a time.
Well, it all kind of ties in though. Hold on.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Much later, 71405 talks about virtual courses. Is the only thing that 1405 does is enable grants for the virtual courses then? I mean, it sounded like it was sort of the same thing. So can you just kind of elaborate on some of that?
Yes, it does grants. There's some specific requirements for those grants. For instance, they have to be these specialized courses. They have to be taught in a certain manner. I believe, I have to look specifically at the language, but I think that there's preference given in the grants to certain schools. Give me a sec. And they have to be assessed at the end, which is not true of the other things. So there's some slight differences in what type of courses may be provided there, but largely these are similar ideas.
So how do we think 7-1002 will impact existing virtual courses right now?
So they would have to be offered in accordance with this beginning.
Okay, so they might have to
effective
change
date.
the way they're offering them. but they can go ahead and offer them right now. They can continue offering them.
If you would like to
have to be-
propose, I'm sorry, would you like to
It
propose?
wouldn't necessarily have to be, but probably would be courses that are difficult to offer in individual schools.
Yeah, there's no requirement that they meet that specified requirement. I would guess that any currently offered courses are probably fall into that, but that's probably not entirely true because I think that some school systems are intending on continuing to educate some children under the current system. So those children who would be educated if, say, 10% of students in a county next year in the fall are going to remain enrolled in virtual courses. Those courses would not be these sort of specialized courses that can't be offered in every school. They would likely be common courses like English 10 and Algebra 1. So
I have
And I
more,
would-
but I can wait to come back around again if you want me to, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, just the other thing I would add to it is that, I don't know if you said this, Alistair, but the grant program is voluntary. The other one is more, you have to.
Used to be a way for them to fund it, which is a good thing.
Correct.
I have
yeah.
other questions on other areas, but I can take a turn and step back and wait.
Sure,
you
we'll
want-
come back. We'll come back to you. Sure. Yeah, we'll come back.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Delegate Rose or Hornberger? Delegate Hornberger.
Yeah, just a couple questions. Could you go over again the brick and mortar requirement that there has to be some presence of said body in the district?
oh yeah, so that's largely a current requirement, except
Can you just
You
go
wanna-
to where he's talking about in the bill, just so we're on the same page?
yes,
If
perhaps.
you know.
It's
I think it's page
in section
27.
71403. I'm not sure the exact page or section. Basically, this is a current requirement for virtual schools. Right now, they have to have a place of business. Previously, under the current law regulating virtual schools, so this is on page 23, subsection H. In the current law regulating virtual schools, they do not have to be located in a particular county. So they just have to have an office somewhere in the state, establish a place of business somewhere in the state. And I think that's largely for normal corporation reasons, so they can be reached at a particular place, so that all that kind of stuff. Because we are requiring that these schools be based under county school systems going forward, we're requiring that that place of business be in the county, but that's the only change to that provision of
but-
law.
In the issue that was just posed with Pearson, for example, administering a course.
So these are, sorry, what? Sorry, maybe I should let you finish, but go ahead.
Yeah, hold on. Delegate Ebersol, can you mute yourself, please?
Sorry, yeah.
And anyone else on here, if you're not speaking, can you mute yourself? Make sure you mute it. Thank you. Go ahead, Alistair.
So these are, we're talking about permanent virtual schools here, not a individual course. Additionally, although under current law, Pearson could be offering a virtual education course, the changes here say that the virtual education courses must be developed by a county board or by the State Department of Education at the request of a county board. So no longer can you have a third party offering a course.
Oh, okay. Let's take it. Okay. And then I had
Go ahead.
some follow-up questions on other sections, but Delegate Rose wanted to ask a follow-up on that question.
Okay, go ahead, Delegate Rose.
Sorry. So does that effectively kind of put Pearson out in Maryland unless they put a brick and mortar in every county?
So it puts them out regardless of that, although under my understanding of current practice, and I could be wrong about this, but I don't think there are any such courses currently being offered. I don't think we have any third party. We might have some developed courses, but I think all the online, they're called online courses right now. We're changing that to virtual education courses. All the online courses I think are, if they are offered, have been developed by the schools, not by an outside group. So although it would limit it in the future, I don't think it's changing current practice. But if someone else on the call might know more about that than I do.
Yeah, and then, I mean, we also are putting, so yeah, I'll just leave it at that. And if one of the advocates has a response to that, we can come to you later. Any other?
Okay,
from-
the
from
last-
Rose? Go ahead, Delegate Hornberger, go ahead.
Yeah, the last part of that same thread. What about vocational training?
So this would not affect vocational training, I don't think. And you could still, we're talking about exclusively online courses, exclusively virtual courses here.
Right.
There's a provision on, the current law pertains to both online courses and services. So we stripped that away and just said, for services, the State Department of Education can adopt guidelines to offer those services. But if what you're engaged in is vocational school where you do some stuff on Monday online and then go into the classroom on Tuesday and then on Wednesday go to work at a place of business, that would not be affected by this section. We're only talking about courses that are exclusively administered.
But what about an exclusive vocational school?
That is administered by the by public school county board?
Yeah, could you still do that?
You could still do that. It would have to be developed by the county board or the
Okay.
State Department of Education.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I have some
current
other
law,
questions, different material.
yeah, current law, the state board has to create it. The state board has to create one. Let's go to, we'll come back to you, Delegate Hornberger, for any other sections. Delegate Guyton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think everyone knows I have a lot of angst over this bill for the last couple of weeks. And I've had a few sleepless nights, but I was thrilled to spend last night reading the new version of the bill and this morning reading the new version of the bill. I just want to thank everybody who was involved in improving this bill to where it is right now, particularly page 25 with the behavioral health supports and the mental health supports, like honestly brought me to tears this morning. So thank you for taking so many of my concerns into account when rewriting this. And thank you, Alistair, for this amazing amount of work that you put in. So I'm actually much more comfortable with this bill than I have been. I did send one question in, and I hope that you can answer that, Mr. Chair, regarding, and it's going to piggyback on Delegate Hornberger and Rose's question about the role of third parties in this. And I know we were just talking specifically about courses, but in the development of schools, are the county boards going to have to develop, reinvent the wheel completely on the virtual school thing for themselves, or can they contract out with somebody who's already running a charter school, virtual charter school, or knows how, has experience in that to make it, easier and more efficient for them? Or kind of is there any role for those groups, or is there no role for them and moving forward in Maryland in virtual school?
I think under the bill as written, still be a part of it, but they can't solely run the school themselves. They can be a part of the conversation, but they cannot run the school. We are completely saying that cannot happen.
Okay.
Is that right, Alistair?
So yeah, a permanent virtual school, a virtual
Sustained.
school, a sustained virtual school has to be run by the county board, and it is not able to be run through another entity. There's not a chartering authority like a charter school. It's treated like a normal school established by the board. So I don't think, I think there could maybe be some, and there will be guidelines developed under this plan by the State Department of Education eventually, and there could be a role for contracting for some knowledge or something, but ultimately the power to run it rests with the county board.
Okay, well, thank you for that information. I know that you all have gotten a copy of some proposed amendments dealing with the charter school thing. I'll leave that with you and maybe we can discuss it, later offline.
I would also say that we're asking the MSDE along with other groups to study virtual learning moving forward too. And so that can all be taken care of at that time for those types of amendments or those types of programs. I think we're reviewed and considered and then provided some guidance to us and to the General Assembly as well as MSDE. Thank you, Delegate Guyton. Delegate Ebersol. And then Delegate Hornberger, you want to hit your button again? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just two house cleaning things. One is, I know that in the original bill, we had made sure that there was no provision for the State Department of Education to run their own virtual school. Looked hard. And I'm wondering if we still protect ourselves against that possibility that limited only to local school systems establishing these.
Yeah, I think we have limited it to only school systems establishing them.
Because there was some language in code originally that would have allowed it, but now there's an expansion here.
Yeah,
I don't think-
MSDE or the state can create.
Right.
Under this,
So I'm
we're requiring that local LEAs create their own.
I mean, I'm conveying my opinion, but I'm hoping that we're correcting that piece of code. The other one is that we have some protections for teachers around collective bargaining and things like that in one section. I don't see much about that in the flip, and I know they're already going to be employees, but we did have some language previously that said that to be sure if they participated in this pilot, it would be considered part of their teaching assignment. And I don't see that anymore. So I was kind of hoping that we might include some of that, because it's possible a teacher won't be completely flipped, that they might flip a particular course. And then that would need to be counted as, I think, my personal opinion is it would be like 2 courses to prepare for, the one they're doing and plus the flip. That would be up to them to negotiate on some level. But I think some language, I would like to encourage some language that says that a teacher who participates in this will be considered part of their teaching load or part of their teaching assignment.
So Delegate, we decided to take that language out, and rather than get into the specifics, because we are not course specialists and we've not studied this issue at length, and there frankly isn't that much research on it. So rather than get into, at this point, rather than get into all the specifics of how exactly we're going to do that, we are instead requiring the State Department of Education, in consultation with experts, in consultation with current teachers and current school administrators, to develop standards for how the program will run. So, and that was the preference of several advocates. So rather than into the specifics of that, I mean, I think that hopefully in the development of the courses, that concern will be taken into account. It is, again, a voluntary program that, a teacher will only be participating in if they desire to participate in it. So, hopefully if they're going to be asked to do more than is necessary, they at least are signing on to that. I doubt that'll be the case. I think that in developing the standards, their concerns will be taken into account, but that is what I would say.
I hold my personal opinion, but thank you.
I concur. Thank you, Delegate Eversole, for the question. Appreciate you looking out for our teachers as always. Delegate Hornberger.
Yeah, so in terms of a what I call a qualifying event, this is written in case we have, for example, another outbreak or such. This question would be more along the lines of, let's say that a school needs to be shut down because of construction, or let's say that there is something, hazardous, they identify asbestos, et cetera. And now I want to shut down that school and I got to get the kids out of there. Is there the ability to transition just that cohort to virtual school, or is that not something that this bill addresses?
Yeah, this bill doesn't really address that. This is concerned only with declared states of emergency by.
Okay, so that's the trigger.
Yes.
Okay.
By either the governor or the governing body of the county.
Okay.
Let me make something clear though. But there's nothing prohibiting them from doing that though. Is that correct, Alistair?
Yeah, as long as, if you're going to offer virtual courses, you have to adhere to those 7-1002 guidelines. But as long as you do that, you could offer virtual courses in that instance.
Correct.
Okay, and then I have another question, unrelated. Do you want me to wait?
No, go ahead. Unrelated to this bill? You have another bill you want?
So this question deals with it's a couple inputs here. AP courses at the community college. My son is a senior right now. He's taking 2 at the community college. They're all virtual. Does this bill passage impede that existing program?
This only affects K through 12 courses, so it wouldn't affect any community college courses or any other higher ed.
What about the AP?
The AP course, as long as it adheres to these norms in 7-1002, that it was established by the county and not by an outside organization, it could work. And I do think an AP course, although you're clearly getting information from the Princeton review, I think you're in establishing it, you're still doing it within the county. So I think that would still work.
Okay. And then the last question I have is, so let's just say Prince George's County and University of Maryland, let's say that they offer this really gee whiz course that, let's just say quantum mechanics, for example. And I'm in Cecil County and I'd really like to take that course, but I can't because I don't live there. Well, now that it's migrating to a virtual course or purely online, I do now have the ability to attend it remotely. I'm concerned about this jurisdictional thing that says, hey, well, I know you could do it from your couch or your living room, but you can't because you don't live in that jurisdiction.
So we're not limiting enrollment in higher education courses. Off the top of my head, I need to look at the dual enrollment section to see specifically what the current constraints are, but this would not affect that. So if you can currently take that course, you'd still be able to take it. I'm not sure if you can, or if you are limited to enrollment in your local schools.
And
So we don't touch higher education, and enrollment courses right now can still do what they're doing right now. There's nothing that changes that.
I think that where this is going to head eventually and trying to future-proof this thing, that maybe part of the study should be a cost sharing for different jurisdictions, because at some point in time, there will be courses or things that are offered in another jurisdiction that aren't in another, and it probably would behoove us to start looking at that now. Just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the study group isn't limited to those things that we're asking them to study. Delegate Horger.
Okay.
Definitely study that as one of the pieces that you're talking about. But I think with the grant program too, it also helps us in getting more data and information on in county specialty courses that might be offered in one area of the county but not in others. I think we're going down that road, like you said. I think we're getting there. But I think right now we want to make sure, let's have the study group study that and figure it out when we get there.
Okay, and I just want to just applaud the efforts of the staff and everybody. It does seem like the bill's in a much better posture. Thank you.
Delegate Jones.
Thank you so much. This is a tremendous amount of work. So thank you. And as I flip through my old copy with all the notes and the margins to the new one to make sure I can answer my own questions, can I just follow up on something that Delegate Hornberger said about state of emergency? And so, and I apologize. So if, God forbid, like Sandy in Jersey and New York shuts down a school, something comes up the Chesapeake Bay, and we can switch to this because potentially a school is damaged due to severe storm in any way. This is something that we could flip the switch on.
That's correct. I mean, there are a number of requirements that kick into place when you are a temporary virtual school. You have to take into account engagement with parents. You have to take into account behavioral health needs of students. So I think that it might not, if it's just going to be a couple of days or something, it might not be something that schools would go into, and it's entirely up to the county board whether they want to transition school to.
I'm sorry, I meant more like, that there needs to be a section of the school that needs to be rebuilt, and it's going to take a month, and folks can't get back. That's what I mean.
Yeah, but many instances like that, Delegate Rose, a lot of school jurisdictions where this happening. My school,
Delegate Jones.
Delegate Jones, excuse me. Delegate Jones, they moved to a different, they moved their kids to a different site or something. So so that could happen. And if in the event there isn't that possibility, then this could happen.
Right. And that's really what I was just trying to drill down on. If, we do have overcrowding potentially in other elementary schools or high schools, could this be something that would be utilized in that situation if we ever needed it? So thank you.
You're asking, let me ask you a question. Are you asking if there's an over enrollment, or if the class sizes reach a certain point, then they can go into virtual learning? Is that your question?
My question is, in case of an emergency that only affects a certain geographical area due to a storm that comes through, that this could be used for the month, that major cleanup or small reconstruction on the school, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
That was
correct.
it. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, now, any other questions on the bill? On the amendment, I guess. Okay, what about the advocates? Really fast. Raise your hand and turn your screen on. Delegate Jones, you have a question?
No, sir, I'm sorry. I forgot to lower my hand.
All right, then we are good. I love it. All right, so I don't have any questions from the advocates, which sounds fantastic. So what say the members of this committee?
Move the amendment.
Favorable. Move favorable on the amendments.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, on the bill as amended.
Move the bill.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The bill moves unanimously. Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Let's move on to our next bill. House Bill 401. This is Delegate Guyton's bill. Alice, you want to tell us what this bill does and the amendments, please? And I'm sorry, before we go there, let me just say thank you to Alistair for all his hard work on this bill. Great work. I just want to also thank the members of the subcommittee for being patient and attending so many different meetings about this bill. So thank you for that. And also want to just thank the advocates too for their hard work as well on this bill. So so great work. Thank you. I think we got to a point. We gotten to a point so where this bill is everybody feels comfortable with moving this forward. So thank you, everyone. With that said, let's go to House Bill 401. Alex.
Yes, sir. So I apologize. I did not send these amendments out yet for this bill, and I will send them now. But this,
so while you're sending that, Alice, I'll explain. So this is House Bill 401, pregnant and parenting students. The bill was sent over to us from the Senate, and we're going to take up the Senate version later. But it conforms the Senate bill to this bill. Delegate Guyton, you want to just quickly tell us what the amendment does, real quick? Are you ready for that or no? No.
No, because I don't have it in front of me, but
It's all
yeah.
good. We'll wait for Alice.
But I move favorable, whatever. No.
We're gonna wait for that. But thank you.
okay, so the amendment, so as we've discussed this bill a little bit before, and I just sent an email, so apologies for the delay on that. The bill as introduced requires that the State Department of Education adopt a model policy for pregnant and parenting students, and that policy include some certain things pertaining to lactation spaces, and that child care and transportation services must be talked about to, they must be, the school systems must designate a staff member who can help pregnant or parenting students connect with those services. So the amendment slightly changes the lactating.
Hey, Delegate Guyton, can you mute yourself, please? And anyone else that's not muted? Thank you.
So the amendment slightly changes what sorts of, first of all, it changes the definition of a pregnant or parenting student from someone who exercises care, custody, or control over a student to someone who is the mother, father, or legal guardian of a student. It changes slightly the lactation space language. Previously, lactation spaces had to have a sink or access to it and contain a fridge. They now have to just contain a sink, and there must be space. You must have access to a refrigerator that is reasonably close to the private lactation space. Additionally, rather than designating a local staff person to connect people to transportation and childcare services, the school system just has to find those childcare services, provide the resources to find those childcare services to the pregnant or parenting students. And finally, there's a provision added that says that this, nothing in this section shall be construed to require that a school construct additional or new spaces in a building. So as we discussed previously with this bill, under the ACA, pregnant parents must be provided, pregnant or parenting students must be provided lactation space, which includes teachers. So there is not now a requirement that you have to build an additional one. You could potentially use that one for your students. So those are the amendments, and they put the HB 401 in the same posture as its cross file, SB 438.
Thank you, Alistair. Any questions on this bill, House Bill 401? Delegate Hartman, excuse me. I thought it said Dwayne. It looked like Dwayne. Delegate Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It did look like Dwayne at the bottom a little bit. Go ahead.
That's not the first time.
I'm calling him that from now on. I just want you to know.
That will be a harassment related offense. Anyway, what does that do to the fiscal note now? Do we have any idea?
Yes, I believe it. So the fiscal note assumed that these lactation spaces would have to be built in each school. So without that assumption, I believe it should reduce it substantially. I don't know if we have a current fiscal note for Senate Bill 438. I will check really quickly. But if we don't, I would imagine that it would drastically reduce the fiscal note.
So basically, schools would have had something for the teachers. So even just allowing a teacher and a student to use the same space would meet the requirement of the bill, correct?
Yes. And so there is a revised fiscal note, Delegate, and there's an estimated expenditure of roughly $60,000 to hire someone to develop the state policy, but otherwise there's no longer mandate on counties that they have to build this space.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Rose or Hornberger.
Yeah, I just want to clarify here. There's nothing in this bill that isn't already required by federal law, right?
I think the exact definition of the lactation spaces is slightly different. You don't have to have access to a fridge under federal law, I don't think, and it could be in a closet under federal law, which this prohibits it from being under closet. Otherwise, that part is pretty similar. There is no federal law requirement. I don't think that students have to be provided with the resources to get childcare or transportation services. So that is an addition, but otherwise it is fairly close to the ACA requirement on lactation spaces.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, do I hear a motion on this amendment? Delegate Guyton. Or your mouth moved, but didn't hear you.
Favorable.
Okay.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. On the bill as amended.
Move favorable.
So properly moved and
Second.
seconded. All right, probably moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Cool. House Bill 401 passes unanimously. Great. Let's move everyone to House Bill 820. Alice, you want to tell us what this bill does as amended?
Yes, absolutely. So, sorry, my computer's making some noises. As introduced, this bill, oh no, I think again, I'm sorry, this is one that I need to send you the amendments for. So as introduced, this is Delegate Rose's bill that would study.
Well, while you're sending that, Delegate Rose, you want to tell us what the bill did as it was introduced?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is the bill that will provide a study every year. Originally was to track and make sure equally across the state that all of our kids were getting access to high quality computer science classes. And then I'll let Alistair explain the change.
Yes, so there's an amendment to the bill that would, rather than just focus on computer science classes, it would also it would focus on all kind of specialty courses. So in this version, using similar language to what we used for the specialty course pilot program that we did in the virtual education bill. It's a course that is not offered at each school. It is also a course that is not required to meet the high school graduation requirements for science, mathematics, English, and social studies. And it is not a CTE course that leads to credentialing. But otherwise, we are trying to, under this bill, collect data on all these courses, make sure that they're provided equally across racial, ethnic, gender, economic lines, which was in Delegate Rose's original bill, and to look at who is teaching these courses and see if that reflects the diversity of the state. So it's an expansion of Delegate Rose's original bill to cover a number of courses.
I think it's a great amendment, Delegate Rose. What do you think?
I like it. I just had one question. Will this include AP courses, or are they considered a specialty? Okay, great.
Yes, I think it should. I think, yes. I think
Okay.
unless there's an AP course that's offered in every school, I don't think there is, but I could be wrong. It's designed for the courses that are not provided
Yeah.
throughout every school.
Okay, and one last question, when it does address the computer science, I think we discussed using the words high level so that it doesn't exclude, like, it kind of relates to my other bill, like there is computer science when we did Delegate Aruna Miller's bill about requiring computer science, but to make sure that it's not just the very basic computing classes, which sometimes are like, this is what a keyboard is, and you know what I mean? Like typing and stuff like that.
Yeah, so it would capture that data, but it wouldn't, because we're looking, I'm assuming that those courses are not offered in every school. I think given that the State Board of Education's recent adoption of regulations, creating some courses that might fit that kind of definition, those courses might be offered in every school and therefore wouldn't qualify for this. But to the extent that they're not, you'd get data on those courses, but you'd be also getting data on high quality courses. You'd be getting data on the plethora of courses.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions on this bill? On its amendment, excuse me. Okay, seeing none, is there any motions on this bill, on this amendment, excuse me?
Move favorable.
Second.
So properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? On the bill as amended, Delegate Rose?
Move favorable. Thank you.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, House Bill 820 passes unanimously. All right, we're gonna move on to some Senate bills. Womp, womp, womp. No, I'm joking. The Senate bill, we're gonna go to Senate Bill 104. Alice, you want to tell us what this bill does?
Yes, absolutely. So Senate Bill 104 is the cross file for Delegate Queen's bill on electric room partitions. The Senate passed it favorably without amendment. We amended Senate Bill 401 into this, 104 into the same posture as the House version. The amendment that is proposed would do that.
Got it. So we're moving to make this bill the Queen's bill Delegate Queen's bill that we sent out of this committee and that we approved. Okay, great. On the amendment, do I hear a motion on the amendment? Can I have a motion on the amendment?
Move the amendment.
It's been properly moved, and I think I heard a second, Hartman?
Second.
Yep. It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, on the bill as amended. Delegate Hartman?
Sure, so moved.
Second.
So properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Senate Bill 104 passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to Senate Bill 438. This is the the cross-file delegate guidance bill as written. I don't think there's any amendments that we have in here, so we're just gonna move this bill. Delegate Guyton,
Move favorable.
it's been properly moved and
Second.
seconded. All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It's Senate Bill 438 passes unanimously. Everyone, we'll move on to Senate Bill 448. This is a bill that we passed out of the House, but I believe we're gonna not concur to this bill, to the Senate bill. Is that correct? Is that correct, Alistair?
Yes, this is, I think we're talking about the cross-file to HB 72. Is that right?
Yep.
And HB 72 is, to remind you guys, that is the bill that governs schools that, allows vehicles in counties to not be school buses for particular populations of students. We put a 5-year limitation on that and said that you would have to study the thing after 5 years. We also required that anyone who is falls into that category, who is providing those services, must meet with the same sort of employment history checks that school bus drivers and others have to meet, that we talked about in Delegate C.T. Wilson's bill earlier in session. The Senate did not, did not accept our amendments. They put a 3-year limit on the type of the ability to offer those non-school bus vehicles, and they did not do the limit on the employment history checks. So they sent that bill back to us in the same posture as the Senate bill. And here we are amending the Senate bill to be in the same posture as the House bill that we sent out. So we have to decide on whether we want to concur with their amendments, and if not, vote this bill out in the same posture as the House bill.
Yeah, we believe 3 years is just way too short of a period of time to gather any type of data or information on it. And we believe also that, I think you guys support this.
Raise your hand.
But we need to make sure that it's a limited amount of time. You don't want them looking back 30 or 40 years. So we wanted to make sure, push our hand forward on this issue with the Senate because we believe it strongly. Delegate Hornberger.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know why they put that short sunset on there, and I just want to confirm we're moving not to concur with their amendments, right?
So we got to move to not concur with their House bill.
Move to not concur, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. And I second.
All right. So we got to move this. We got to move our amendments first on this bill to conform it to the House bill we sent out, right, Alistair?
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to take a motion from Delegate Ebersol to move, or Delegate Hartman, whomever.
Just move to add, we're just moving to add the amendment right now, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So moved, yeah.
Yep. Thanks.
Seconded.
That's okay.
Second.
Thank you. So probably moved and seconded. Let's do this right, guys. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed. And on the bill as amended, Delegate Hartman.
Move.
So move. Cool. Delegate, anyone? Delegate Hornberger, can I get a second?
Second. Yep.
It's probably moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Okay, Senate Bill 448 passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Now we'll move to Senate Bill 749. Why are they fighting us so much on that bill? It makes 5 years. Come on, man. Senate Bill 749. Alice, you want to tell us what this bill does?
Yes, so this is the Charles County bill on the county board members that we passed out of our committee. There's a very slight technical amendment to this bill. We, in both chambers, failed to catch the fact that the appointed at large members in the uncodified section still referred to members rather than member, because as amended, the bill would only have one at large member. So this small amendment just changes that from members to member. And
this bill came over in the same posture we sent it over. Is that right?
exactly, yeah.
But we're just adding this one amendment.
We're adding this
So to
one.
clarify, the amendment removes the letter S.
Correct.
Yes, thank you, Delegate Ebersol, for that clarity. Okay, do I hear a motion on the amendment?
Move favorable,
Amendment.
Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, on the bill as amended, Delegate Ebersol.
Yeah, move favorable. There are just too many S's in the world.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Thank you. Senate Bill 749 passes unanimously.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
have your indulgence. As someone named Stephanie Smith, I do not believe there are too many S's ever in this world, but continue.
Nice.
Yeah, now to me, you're just F&E myth.
All right. So we'll move on to our last bill of the day. This is Senate Bill 823. Alice, you want to tell us what this bill does, excuse me?
Senate Bill 823, I have to look it up really quickly. I
It gives
apologize.
a lot of raises, to school board members and
Oh, yes, right.
Correct.
This is a bill we passed without amendment, and the Senate did the same. So,
Got it. No amendments. Got it. Delegate Holmberger.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move it favorable.
Second.
All right. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Okay, that's completes our session for today, everyone. Thank you for a great time on this meeting today, and we'll see everybody in the voting session. Thank you.